Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the phenomenal voice actor, Mike Tobin. We talked about how he started out as a voice actor. He gave some great tips to those who want to get into this industry. Co-hosting a successful show with Emma O'Neill, we talked about how AI and how you might be fine in this specific genre. And you don't want to miss his epic audition challenge. Plus, we also talked VO shop. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Behind the Audition podcast. All right, I am super excited about my next guest today. They are on a Clubhouse that my last guest was on 2 episodes ago, Emma O'Neill. And I listened into the show, and I a lot of Clubhouse shows, you'll listen in and you listen to them talk, and some shows you're like, oh, this is all right. But this show, it grabbed me, and I try to get on there every single Tuesday night because they give you some valuable information to us voice actors. And as well as that, he is a voice actor that deals with commercials, IVR, narration, and you've heard this guy all over the place. And he is a Canadian voice actor. So let's bring on the one, the only, Mike Tobin. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Curt. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for the kind words about the voiceover roundtable. Really, really appreciate it. What show was it that grabbed you?
Your show.
No, the first specific show. Do you remember who the guest was?
So I told Emma this, and it was kind of funny when I called her. The one with Ryder. I had Ryder on the show.
Oh, jeez, Ryder.
And in the last, there's been a couple of last ones that I try to drop in. I'll do dishes. It's East Coast. So I'll do dishes. We round the kids up, all that stuff. And I listened to Ryder, the one, and I help some voice actors. They'll reach out and they want to get some pointers. And he said something, the adjectives, enunciating the adjectives. And I really never thought about that with the script. Yeah. And I thought, and I've taken those pointers, and when I do auditions now, and I'm like, that's a really good idea, because you don't emphasize the adjectives a lot. You don't think about it, and I think it really helps. So that episode, and then the one with Eric Shepard, I listened to.
That was a wild one.
And then the one, they say she's like wide open. I totally went blank.
Ellie Ray?
Yes, Ellie Ray. She was cracking me up.
That was a cosmic experience.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, those were definitely three standout shows in the last little while. We've had some wonderful guests. It's been such a treat to do the show with Emma. And to your point, Ryder's a fabulous coach. He's got so much to offer talent from a coaching point of view. He's got so much experience and just chops galore. And he's a really fine guy too. And our other, we've had so many great guests. Ellie Ray is just a ride. If you ever get a chance to meet her in person, just hang out for a little bit close by, and you're sucked into that amazing aura. She's so much fun. It's been a wild ride doing the show, and it's a lot of fun. We really, really love doing it, and hope we can continue doing it for a good time.
Absolutely. And I started this show back in 2020, October, and to see how things have evolved the last 3 years now. People are getting back to see one another. Like VO Atlanta was last week. Yep. And, did you get a chance to go back? I did
not go this year. I'm headed to another conference in early May. So I kind of made the decision, well, I'm not going to go to 2 this year. Maybe. So VO Atlanta probably next year.
Very nice.
Probably next year. But I heard it was a great time. Lots of people. Yeah.
Yeah, when you see people like they're big old smiles and they're hugging one another, and they're like excited to actually just see somebody in person, because that was kind of a different situation, especially for me being an extrovert. Like can't get out of the house. And now we're like, okay, we're back to, I say, normal in most cases, but
pretty much.
And so for you, you've been doing this a while now. When you got into this role, what did you say to yourself, like, this is what I want to do? Because a lot of people go from like a full-time job, or they'll go from college, or they'll get a coach. What was it that made you want to get into this industry?
It's a great question. And I think a lot of people, to what you're saying, a lot of people come from a different space. I literally said this week on the show on Clubhouse when we were talking with Danny States, because she went through a very similar experience to me, where she was working in the corporate world and went through a few layoffs And then there's something about that happening to you a couple of times where somebody has power over your life and you sort of say, I don't really like this feeling.
Hmm.
And so you kind of, when I look back on it, I think after going through a couple of layoffs in the corporate world, I've been doing voiceover full time for about almost 10 years now. And you sort of look back, you look around, look back, and you take inventory of, okay, what do I have that works for me? What is marketable? What can I leverage to, build something out of? And at that time, I kind of, I had thought about voiceover a little bit in the past previously. But at the time, the barriers to entry were really different than they were even 10 years ago, and even now more so than ever. In the past, yeah, in my head, when I first thought about voiceover, and I actually did a voiceover once for something, to me, this is something for actors with agents and unions and people who have been, gone to art school and acting school and things like that. And I passed it off. And lo and behold, a bunch of the other skills that I gathered along the way all kind of lined up and said, yeah, voiceover, you got to give this thing a try. And I did, and it worked out. It's really good.
And you are a bilingual voice actor too,
Yeah.
and I think that's great that there are a lot of more and more bilingual voice actors coming out. I wish I knew another language because I think it works in your favor. What do you think you work more on voiceover wise? You work on because French is your
Yeah,
second,
I'm English and French.
right?
I mean, technically, my language at birth was English, but what I tell people a lot about being bilingual is often, especially for those of us who don't carry an accent, or I shouldn't say don't carry an accent, but are able to perform in what would be considered native or a local accent that if someone from that area hears us, they wouldn't say, "Oh, that's an English person speaking French." Is that I was immersed in it from day one. If I wanted to play in the park, the kids were French, the kids were English. It was just there. When I was in school, it was there. It was always around. But definitely, it has to be the single most important aspect to my success in voiceover has been the fact that I came into it bilingual. I had something extra to offer. I had something to stand out with, which was, yeah, a real blessing.
So, what would you say your work was like? Do you do more
Mm.
English or French? Like, how does that work? Because I would love to hear it. Because French is a very cool. My wife, she learned French in high school, and
Yeah.
sometimes she'll try to bring it. How French Canadian is it a lot different, a lot more different than French, or is it? I mean, I don't know French, so when I hear
Yeah.
Canadians say French Canadian, is there a big difference?
It's a great question. The language, the base of the language, of course, is the same.
Hmm.
The majority of the words are the same, but with any language, depending on where you are in the world, there might be localization, like words that are used here that are not used elsewhere, and vice versa. So, English in the United States versus English in the UK versus English in Australia.
Hmm.
They're all English, but they sound different. There's some different words and some different flavors and tones, very much like that. So French from France,
Hmm.
French is one thing. Parisian is its kind of its own little niche. It's very, very particular. It's got a very particular sound.
Hmm.
Um, what people come to call French Canadian is something that's kind of more of a generic across the board, safe French Canadian,
Hmm.
which is something that you would hear, let's say, on Radio Canada, so like the French version of CBC
Yeah.
or something like that. And then there's Québécois, and that's a dial that can be turned as far as you want to go to. It would be like speaking English street slang if you want,
Yeah.
or it's like any language. You can get as casual as you want, or you can get as polished as you want. And so that's the fun dial to play with. And surprisingly, depending on what genre I'm performing in, that dial has to be turned to different places.
Yeah.
So like for a corporate narration, it's probably going to be more in the safe zone. Whereas if it's advertising, the biggest market in French-speaking Canada is going to be Montreal and the surroundings. And so that's going to be more of a casual, more of a Québécois kind of thing. So
That's
it's
cool.
mm,
Do you ever go out of out of your you're doing one language, do you ever go out of one language and go to another on accident? Like you're doing like a French read and you like start talking English. Have you ever done that before, like an audition?
um, Yes, but it's one thing that you have to do in telephony all the time.
Oh, wow.
I mean, why would you record it separately, right? So
Yeah.
it's like the prompts in bilingual prompts for telephony are often going to be like, it'll tell you that there's going to be a French message after the English message. So you have to
Mhm.
say, un message en français suivra. Hi, thanks. Thank you for calling whatever company, and then you finish it, and then the French version comes. So like the switch just it gets weird. It does get weird.
So I'm a big hockey fan, and I know Canada is like the land of hockey. Do you
Mm.
do a lot of Canadian? I'm sorry, do a lot of hockey promos at all, or like have you
No,
auditioned for some?
personally, no. I mean, we see the auditions, but I haven't, and I don't know. Maybe that's because honestly, I'll say I'm not a huge hockey fan.
Oh my gosh, that's all
Yeah,
right.
you found a Canadian who's not like I enjoy hockey, but
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I enjoy hockey, but I don't live, breathe, and eat it as many of my fellow Canadians do. No offense to any of the hockey lovers, we love you out there, but
Yeah.
there's so much work. Hockey is just
That's all right. No, no. I had to ask, and I think it's always cool
yeah.
because you'll have the baseball is here in America is like it's not the number one, I don't think anymore. I think basketball is or football, I should say,
I don't know.
NFL.
Everybody's talking about pickleball.
Yeah. That I'm talking about when I go down the street and I can't use the tennis courts, but but that's
Right?
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll never understand that. But trends going on in today's world, we got, a lot of people staying with
Oh,
one
don't say
genre.
it. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
shit. No, you got the A word.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah,
say
well,
it.
yeah,
We'll get
yeah,
to that.
yeah. We'll get to that, but I think that I'm not so worried about it because something that I found this week talking to a fellow VO about that I think will make a lot of people not worry so much. But
Mm,
trends, and I see you do a lot of different genres. Do
yeah.
you find yourself doing more of one genre? I know you do IVR narration as well as commercial work. Do you find yourself, the more and more the years go by, you focus more on one because you have a passion for one?
Mm. That's a really good question, and I think the for me personally, right now is kind of the period of conscious effort to not stay stuck in a wheelhouse because it can be really easy, especially when you have something like my bilingualism. Um, for me, the things that come most frequently, especially from direct clients, is requests for actual bilingual work where I'm going to be doing the English and French. So things like corporate narrations, like a brand video, things like, training, corporate training. Oh, we have this, 5 module thing to do for our team, and we need to do it in English and French. So it's like getting 2 jobs in one. And sometimes even I'll hit the home run and get a commercial in English and French. It doesn't happen very often because they often get cast at very different times, sort of an after the fact kind of thing. Sometimes the English commercial will come first out of the US market or something like that, and then they'll do a French version afterwards. But every once in a while, we get, I get that special piece that comes along. But to what I was saying, like now I'm really trying to see, okay, well, I like working in these genres, but
Mhm.
what else is there? And I think it's really important to be able to diversify and push yourself and stretch your limits, even if you don't get out there and actively work in a genre, like to explore, last conference I was at in the fall, took a session on video game with Ellen Dubin. It was awesome. It was so good. And it just brings out a different side in you and you approach things differently. And sometimes you bring some of that into your other work. And it's really, really interesting. So to explore things like video game, to explore things like maybe animation or
Mhm.
maybe other accents or different things like that, it's important to push and grow because we can get stagnant really easy and get stuck in, well, this works for me, so I'm going to stay here. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
No.
Avoid burnout. And I know you and Emma talk a lot about coaching. How often do
Yeah.
you meet with your coach to keep you, keep your mind fresh and things that can help you build up your business?
So eh, I think coaching, much like getting a demo produced, you have to go into it with goals in mind.
Mhm.
It can't just be a blind thing. Well, I'm going to set to meet with a coach every month, or I'm going to set. Sometimes you're going through a period where you need to get something done, or you need to level up in a certain area in your work or whatever. And so I think it can depend greatly, but I think you should be coaching on a regular basis. Obviously, depending on what level you're at and where you are in your career. Financially, it can be very different too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to invest. So somebody coming into it year one, maybe they're going to be looking at the sort of school options. There's a few VO schools out there where you can take some courses and take some part-time stuff online, in person. And then as you grow and you want to level up, or maybe you're going after a higher tier agent, or whatever your goal is, that's where your coaching should align with that. So
Absolutely. And I'm going to be having a fellow VO who does production work and who handles all the audio and everything on the outside. And I have clients reach out to me who want to be coached. I have clients who reach out who want to, I also do podcast editing. The ones that reach out to want to be a voice actor, I'll say, send me a sample of how because some are confident, some are super confident, and I appreciate that. They'll
Yep.
send me something and I'll say, before I refer you to a coach, because my goal is to get you with somebody that has that time, because some are they just open a book and they read something, they think they're the best voice actor. And I say, send me a demo. They'll send me a demo. It is very important for those to understand it's not just getting a coach, it's the investment. Wouldn't you agree? Because it's not just going to take 2 weeks. It's a total marathon. Even for all the time I've been in this and you've been in this, sometimes you go back and listen to an audition you did and you're like, wow, that was pretty bad. I gotta talk to somebody about this. What would you say to those? How important it is? Don't expect to be like getting some serious money the first year because you're just thinking you have a good voice. I know we hear that all the time, but the coaching and the acting, what advice would you give to them for how important it is to get with somebody right away?
We say this on the roundtable, Emma and I, a lot, and it comes through from a lot of our guests. Voiceover is a long game. There's when you see someone who you perceive as having had an overnight success because you didn't hear about them or you didn't see them or anything like that, and then all of a sudden they're voicing all the movie trailers and they're doing all this and they're getting the commercials and they're signed to the top management companies and things like that. The chances of them just having got into voiceover 6 months or a year prior to that are not zero.
Mm-hmm.
They've been grinding for years and they've been kicking down doors, and finally things broke through and they took off. So to someone starting out, it's an investment like any business. If you're going to open a restaurant, or if you're going to, I don't know, whatever business you're thinking about opening, you have to put some money into it. Now, the asterisk there is, should you be putting a lot of money into something that might not work out for you? Like, hey, somebody said I make great scrambled eggs, I'm going to open a breakfast diner.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can try.
Yeah.
So coaching is huge. Getting education up front is huge. I think one of the other things that's really, really critical is, like I was saying, to do that inventory of your skills.
Mm-hmm.
And in voiceover, we wear so many hats. You'll agree with it. I mean, you're wearing one right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're wearing your podcaster hat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so many people come in with that, well, somebody told me I had a great voice, or so-and-so thought I would be great. Okay. Do you know how to record, edit, produce audio?
Right.
Do you know how to prepare a proper quote that's going to get you paid fairly? Do you know how to research, find, and market to clients that make sense for you? Like, there's so many things that people getting into it don't think about. That they need to. And they need to realize that it's such a bigger picture, and the performance aspect of it, while it is critical, it's the thing that goes out there into the world. There's so much more to it, and you got to be aware that there's more to it.
Absolutely. And I talk to people the importance of content creation, knowing how to create content, knowing how to, and if you don't have somebody teach you or have somebody do it for you, social media marketing. And I know we're touch a little bit on the AI thing. One thing that this past week that I was talking to somebody about, for those who use editing software that's AI, I just saw this, and I'm not obsessed with it, but I always like to read the fine print. For those listening, and you probably agree with this because you do a show too, don't use AI editing softwares. They have them now. And they take out the they take out this, and I'm not trying to, whatever. But if you look at the fine print, it says we have the right to use anything that's editing in this thing, edited in this software,
however we want.
right?
And
And it's kind of crazy because I keep getting these AI companies. It's like 3 in the last 2 weeks reaching out, wanting to put me on a roster, and you get residuals. It's really weird. I don't know if it's because it's they have your voice, and instead of you auditioning, they have everything they need. And then they're going to go ahead and they're going to pay you. Hey, your voice was used this week to do a 3,000 word narration. So you get paid whatever. Yeah, it sounds easy. You didn't do any work, but you really don't know where your voice is going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How scared are you about this? I mean, I think narration, I think we've talked about narration and some projects might go away. But how worried are you about the future of AI?
It depends on the day. And honestly, there are many days where I just, this sounds kind of naive and foolish depending on who you ask, where I just kind of la 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 la, I don't want to hear about AI, la la la.
Yeah.
And there are other days where I'm like, oh, do I need to worry about this? And that's, as things progress, we're going to get a better idea of where we all land on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing I'm clear about is I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to go out and, make a model for myself to market afterwards and things like that. And are we going to lose work to it? Probably. But we had a great chat with J. Michael Collins, who, is an industry titan and has his finger on the pulse of everything. And what he was saying about, building these models and everything like that, he said, unless you can show me a use case where I'm going to get more than, beer and fun money, where it's going to be like, oh, that could be retirement money, then it's not worth talking about.
Right.
And I'm really on the same page as that, because it's so tempting for voice actors. They see, oh, wow, I could, a TTS for $5,000 or $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds $10,000 is a lot of money for most people. And it's very tempting. But if you cut yourself out of all future work, not only from that directly,
mm-hmm.
but, let's say you're at a place in your work where you get auditions from agents and it asks about exclusivity, and you can no longer answer that question accurately of, no, I have not performed something in this, or I have not performed something in this, because there's an AI of your voice out there potentially performing something in every genre possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets really iffy. I do sort of want to cover my eyes sometimes and just,
no, it's fine.
We'll figure it out.
No, but I totally get it. I produce podcasts for other shows, and I heard one recently that some big companies are putting a halt on AI because it's going a little too quick.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait a minute, hold on. Because these are the things that, the AI could be creating robots to make all their chips for this. They can create, they can take all the fast food industry. They can take so many things, and all of a sudden we get to a point where, like, wait a minute, now we literally demolished everything because we got excited, right?
We joke about this. I mean, many people make these jokes. I posted a thing the other day on a comment on somebody's post, but Terminator kind of warned us about this a while back.
I still love the first one.
It's like, that was what, the 80s.
Yeah. I'm an 80s kid, love the movie.
And now we're well, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Are we doing exactly what we said we shouldn't do?
Yep.
Absolutely. And so at what point does it become self-aware? And like you said, maybe the worst case scenario is everybody kind of standing around looking, oh, I don't have a job. What do I do now? And but yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it is scary. Going on to work-life balance, I don't know how you run your business. Do you find that running a set schedule, or are you a 365, 7 days a week kind of guy? I found that last 2 years I needed a work-life balance where I needed 8:30, 5:30, and I'm not the kind of, I don't care if I'm going to lose money. I have kids, I have a wife. If somebody gives me a $500 job at 9:00, that's not important. It's how to structure my business the way it's like a business, right?
Yeah.
Because I found I was getting burnt out. I was doing those. I got a call, $500 for this thing. Right now it's 9:00. I'm getting ready to relax with family, and I'm finding myself, wait a minute, I'm worrying more about money. I'm kind of I got away from the corporate gig because I didn't want to work late and work too much. I want to keep this my passion. How do you balance your work-life balance?
I think it's a great question, and it's really important. And to what you just said, one of the reasons why I love doing voiceover is, what we talked about before, the variety in it, but also the flexibility and versatility of being able to do your thing when you want.
Right.
And I think we need to get to a point where we manage the expectations of our clients,
Mm-hmm.
and that starts with us. So yes, there's this hype and hustle culture out there that you need to get in as fast as possible. And in some cases, sure, when that's doable. But to what you just said, if making those decisions is going to cut into your life and make this less of a positive thing for you,
Mm-hmm.
are you really achieving what you set out to and having a voiceover career?
Right.
So I try to be responsive to my customers. I try to be responsive to my agents.
Mm-hmm.
Get the auditions in on time. Get jobs in when I say. But I tell people, especially if I do a little bit of I don't call it coaching, but a little bit of instruction, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously we get questions on the roundtable and things like that. It's really important to um, give yourself the time and build in fudge factor. And it's that golden rule of business, the under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
Like, I may know that a job's going to take me 45 minutes to record, edit, clean up, produce, package, name everything, and send to the client.
Right.
But it's what can happen in that 45 minutes to an hour that I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I get a call from the school that my kid's not feeling well, or maybe something else comes up. Maybe there's a problem I need to attend to. So having that as a process in your business, especially when you're dealing with direct customers,
Mm-hmm.
yes, people want things right away, but they don't always need them right away.
Right.
So it's building in a fudge factor of saying, hey, I can have this for you or actually flip that on its head.
Right.
Ask your customer, how soon do you need this?
Right.
And very often they'll say, oh, if you can get it to me by the end of the week, that would be great.
Right.
Perfect. Get it to you by the end of the week. Not a problem.
Right.
Then go and do it in 45 minutes and send it to them.
Right. Expectations and setting that expectations with your clients and building relationships. Absolutely. It was 3 years ago, I kept getting auditions, or I get a job 6 a.m. And I sleep till 6:30, but let's get
Me too.
I got it. And I was like, okay, I got to rush downstairs, just knock this out. But then it was continuing going on. Great. It's good money. But at the point, it's like, wait a minute, then it started happening at nighttime. And I'm like, I have to set expectations with my clients. Look, This is my time, because at the end of the day, you're going to get burnt out. And I'm not the one. I said this myself, I'm never the one to bring a travel rack. If I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation, because I need that mind break myself. You know what I mean? Do you do the same thing, or do you bring the travel with you?
You know what? I've debated it, and a couple of times I don't want to say I've gotten burned,
Mm-hmm.
but for sure, you send the email to your clients. I'm going to be away. Do you need anything?
Yeah.
I'm leaving soon. And then lo and behold, there was a couple of summers ago, I left for a road trip with the family, and I was less than an hour away from my house and get the email.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a regular client that I had emailed and said that I'm going to be away.
Right.
And I was like, I'm on the road. I'm already on the highway,
Right.
hours from home.
Right.
And he's like, oh, well, maybe you can do it in your car on your phone.
That's a disservice, right?
And I'm like, sure, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, all right. And he did it, and he used it, and he cleaned it up. Fortunately, this is, a client who has some good audio chops and was able to do things well. But that being said, I've seen videos from, for example, I know you had him on your show, Booth Junkie, Mike Tobin, and where he was saying, like, it's kind of the analogy that we talk about cameras. The best camera that you have is the one that's with you.
Right.
Well, the best microphone you have is the one that's with you, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, okay, the car is a quiet environment, and I put it on I actually had a tripod with me for like photos and stuff like that. So I put it on the tripod and was able to kind of get a hands-free approach, and it sounded okay,
Absolutely.
But do I bring a travel rig now? I don't bring a big travel rig, but I do have a few. I have a really, really good little Rode microphone.
I've seen that.
That's like an on-camera, the video mic. Video Mic Go 2 or Video Mic Pro, one of the,
Mhm.
anyway, it's about $100 mic or something like that, but it's like a little shotgun mic and it sounds really good.
Well, that's good to know for those who do the traveling and recording. And
Yeah.
you know, before we go to the last piece, I'm gonna have some fun with you here. I'm gonna have
Mm.
the audition challenge, and now this one is a special one to me because it's the 40-year anniversary of one of my all-time favorite movies. So I sent you a script in your chat, and let's do one like a movie trailer, and let's do one in your French Canadian accent because I love that accent.
Oh boy. Okay, so give me a second here. What we're going to do, since we're going into audition mode, we're going to turn this guy off.
I love it. Look at this pro. This is jumping into the pro mix right here. This movie that he is going to read the script for, it is probably my top 5 all-time movies because it's just a cult classic. You know, it's up there with Weird Science. I love Weird Science. So I can't wait to hear this one.
Okay, so movie trailer, and you said you wanted 2 takes.
Yep.
First one being
Like movie trailer, you know, it's
okay,
been 40 years. And then
right.
your French Canadian one.
Oh, French Canadian. So English with a French Canadian accent?
Let's do one French and one English promo. How about that?
Oh, you want, or do you want the Canadiana accent, like the? Yeah. I know what you want.
Okay, cool.
So, let me bring this down here.
I'm so excited.
It's been 40 years since we hear their iconic voices and watch their shenanigans. From their beer-drinking dog, the Yosemite Sam father, and the countless use of the word A. It's time once again for the Mackenzie brothers. Strange Brew 2. Don't be a hoser and go see the movie.
Oh, man.
Okay, take 2, version 2.
All right, here we go.
It's always about the second take. So it's been 40 years, since we heard their iconic voices and watched their shenanigans. From their beer-drinking dog, the Yosemite Sam father, and the countless use of the word A. It's time once again for the Mackenzie brothers. That's Bob and Doug, for those of you who don't freaking know. Strange Brew 2, peeps. Don't be a hoser. Go see the damn movie.
Oh my gosh. Is that one of your favorite movies? I mean, that has to be like a classic, like for everybody. I mean,
it is. And but for those of you, like, there's some classic movies, and having grown up in Quebec and around Montreal and stuff like that, I'm going to put you on to a couple of things that they're going to change the way you look at things.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about hockey. Do you remember there was a classic hockey movie? I think it was with Newman.
Slapshot. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
The twins. Yes.
Right.
Forgot about that one.
So Slapshot was redone in Quebecois with like hardcore Quebecois French overdubbing. And it is like a cult classic among Quebecois people, you know, of a certain era.
Mm-hmm.
And the other movie is this is a fun Quebecois movie called Elvis Gratton. So you're going to look up Elvis Gratton. I'll put it in the chat for you so you can see.
Okay.
And it basically follows the sort of life shenanigans of an Elvis impersonator.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And just all kinds of tropes and classic silliness of them going down to vacation in Florida, and yeah, it's really ridiculous. It's a lot of fun. So that's my Quebecois side coming through for you. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it has been so good to have you on here. I am super excited. Tell everybody where we can follow you and how we could catch your show every single Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, most socials, you'll find me at Mike Tobin VO, or search me up on LinkedIn or whatever. Our show with my lovely host, Emma O'Neill, we do every Tuesday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on Clubhouse. And we're going to probably start repackaging it as a podcast for those who don't do the Clubhouse thing. But for now, it's a nice little live event, and we've been having some great shows, and a lot of fun, a lot of great guests, and we look forward to doing it every week. It's super. Love it.
Well, I'm going to definitely have to have you back on here again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Mike Tobin, for coming on Behind the Audition podcast.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. For more information about Mike Tobin or to book him for a project, go to bilingualvoiceover.ca.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.